Alright guys, sorry for the delay. War number 6 here, we're up against HCAV, and if you noticed, unfortunately, because of the war rating discrepancy here, we have what I would call a fairly sizable advantage. We've only got a plus 14 if we win, so this really slows us down in our ascent to Tier 1. At this point in the season, you guys can see here we're at basically a 30-50 rating, and Tier 1, the cutoff or the floor for Tier 1 is right around 31-20. So, if we had a couple wars of 40 or a 50 plus for wins, then we could have gotten to Tier 1 in 2 wins, and unfortunately because of this one, it's going to take 3 wins. So it just kind of slows us down a little bit, but ultimately not a huge deal. I don't think it's mathematically possible for us to reach Masters this season, even if we go undefeated. And our only goal for this season essentially is to, obviously secure Platinum 1 and get to a Tier 1 multiplier in prep for next season so that we can, make a strong push for as high up in Masters as we can go. So anyway, getting into the bands and then the scouting here. These guys, I actually joined here and then I realized, oh yeah, I should record the band part, so I'm going to back out. But these guys banned Kingpin, as every alliance has been banning, and then also Apocalypse and Cosmic Ghost Rider. So they're taking away 2 very, very strong attackers plus Kingpin. Looks like Kingpin and Apocalypse are going to be the blacklisted champs next season, which is devastating for me. I don't know how I'm going to do, but we will see. Alright, path number 1. This path is essentially a region path. So you can use champs that heal block, like Warlock, Omega Sentinel, Void, doesn't really heal block, but he can, reverse or stop regen. Even Torch with Flame On, Torch with a lot of debuffs, and you've got a bunch of options, but it's basically a heal block path. This does have masochism over time, so if you're using a hero and or metal champ and you don't want to have to play around the masochism, you can throw on a guidance with White Magneto. I'm going to end up taking this path with Omega Sentinel. I can't remember if I give myself guidance here, but with Omega Sentinel it's not really needed because she's a debuff champ anyway. I'm going to trigger masochism over time regardless, whether I have guidance or not. But once I trigger it once, then I can apply my heal block debuff, and from there I can just keep it up without re-triggering masochism by doing light ending full combos with her to pause the debuffs. But yeah, she's good for here. She's also good for this fight here. It's masochism over time, but also strike counter fury. So basically strike counter path 2 here. You just want to recycle your SP1 so that they're not building up a bunch of furies unless you're using Quake, obviously, or a champ like Thing with max sig. If you don't throw specials, you allow them intentionally to build up fury passives, then they'll just start triggering protection on Thing with every blocked hit, and you basically just don't have to take any damage. You can just stand there and let them punch you in the face repeatedly, and they won't do any damage. So Thing is really the only exception. Quake, if you can Quake this node, if it's a defender you can Quake. Obviously don't have to worry about the combo hits. This node does have brute force, so you can't Quake it, but yeah, you've got options. I could have taken this with Omega Sentinel, however, we had a Corvus take this with guidance because we had a Corvus go up this path here and was able to pick up 2 charges. So, all right, Conduit Defender with Corvus. You can either play it without throwing a special or knockdown. His his auto crits are going to do enough damage, and then here you can obviously just armor break. So that's an option. You can also use like Hulkling, who can't be power burned, and just don't knock a Conduit Defender down. And then, of course, you can use a champ like, for these fights, you could use a champ like Venom or King Groot, both of whom are immune to power burn against tech champs. And then you can also use Gallon, who is not only immune to power burn, but anytime if he's awakened, a defender tries to power burn him, he actually gets additional planetary mass. So it just, I mean, Lav's got some videos using Gallon on this path, but Gallon is like a 15-second nuke option for basically any defender on this path that has armor. So Gallon's a great option, but those are some options there. Moving on to middle section here, and path 4. Path 4 is just a debuff path. So if you have a debuff purifier like a Mole Man, an Elsa Bloodstone, or like a Shang-Chi, then this path is really pretty simple here. I don't really like placing, you know, debuff heavy science champs on this path because it's just super wasteful. I don't necessarily think that a Ham or even a Mr. Negative is going to get a kill at high tier war, but if you put a Ham here, you're almost guaranteeing that he won't get a kill because everybody sends Mole Man to this path, and Mole Man is just like the best option for Spider Ham in the game. So anyway, that's what we did. We sent a Mole Man here. We might have sent a Mole Man here as well. I honestly can't remember. But again, these two fights are just diversity fights. You can kind of send anybody here. If you're not using Mole Man, even if you're using Mole Man, frankly, anytime you're fighting a Spider Ham, regardless of who you're using, you just want to recycle your SP1s. When you hold power, he gains Spider Nonsense, and that's basically when he becomes dangerous. So as long as you can prevent him from gaining Spider Nonsense and stacking those up, then you don't have to worry about him evading. You don't have to worry about him you know, limiting your special damage, none of that stuff. So that's the play against Spider Ham anywhere. This path, man, I can't remember who we sent, but you know, Torch is really, really good option here. I mean, you can use a champ like Doom here. Basically, this fight here this is a ebb and flow knockdown, so they get a protection that limits damage by 60% unless you knock them down. And this has heavy hitter, so you know, if you use a champ that's not a mutant and he's purifying your stun debuff, then you know it could be tough to land an in there, because when he throws a heavy, he's going to go passively unstoppable because of the node, and it just makes it more difficult. So you can either just use guidance here to bypass that, you know, his ability to shrug debuffs, or you can use a mutant champ. I can't remember what we did here, but this is a really easy path. For this fight, you know, you can either ignore the node if you're using a champ like Torch that's going to build up a ton of damage and smolders against an energy dealer like Professor X, or you can just go to your SP3, parry, heavy to knock the defender down, and then throw your SP3. You're going to actually have a Fury buff or a Fury passive effect from the knockdown, and you'll remove the protection there, and then your SP3 just does a ton of damage. Here, this is another debuff immune after knockdown, just as this node is. We definitely sent Falcon for this fight, but I mean, again, it's just one of those fights. You can kind of use anybody. Any good thing counter is going to be fine, as long as it's not like a debuff dealer like a slow champ or something like that, because when you knock him down, he will purify that slow debuff. And then over here, you know, I've talked about this in previous videos, but this is the most valuable node on this path. This is kind of the only valuable node on this path. It has spiked armor, and you can sometimes kind of bait really heavy damage dealers like Cosmic Ghost Rider, who on his special 2, especially if you save his precision, is going to crit on every hit, and he's going to just take 6% of all of his hit damage back in physical burst damage from spiked armor. So, you know, this node is fairly valuable. You kind of have to, like, you know, find a counter for this node, or be safe, you know, kind of just really cautious on this node. This node is not that way. It's got critical setup, which honestly doesn't even matter, and it's got combat deja vu prowess, which again just doesn't matter. So this is just a wasted placement here. And then island, the right island here. There wasn't a defender placed here. This path is just a hazard shift with what is it? Incinerate and poison. So, you know, Quake if you can Quake it, Ghost if she's not banned, and then you've got like double immunes like Anti-Venom, Red Hulk, and Iceman, and then you've got like Incinerate immunes like Kitty is a good option for this path. CGR is obviously a very fast option. I sent this person with Iron Doom, who's Incinerate immune as long as he has an armor up buff, and Strife has no way to armor break him. So you just got to play around the poison phase when that comes around. But that was a very easy fight there. We definitely sent a Kitty for this fight. Really good matchup for Kitty. And then here we've got a Conflictor. I think we sent a Torch with Flame on so as to not trigger Conflictor, which only is triggered on debuffs, not passives. And then just play this fight stun immune so that you're not, you're building up smolders and all that stuff. Very, very easy fight. Not a fan of this placement with Torch available. And then here we had an Archangel take this fight. Archangel's pretty hard counter for Black Cat. As long as you're landing parries and not trying to intercept her, and you're using, especially if you're using a mutant champ, she's just really not that big of a deal. And then here, I think a Tiger took this fight. It does have some buffs as the defender fills bar of power. Tiger just neutralizes that completely. But you can also use, Torch. You can use Red Hulk. You can use Archangel for this path. You kind of use whoever you want. All right. Moving on to the middle section minis or shared fights here. Our Iron Doom guy took this fight. This fight has Hazard, Shift, Incinerate, and Shock. Iron Doom is immune to both of those as long as he has an armor. And he just completely destroys mutant champs. He's tailor-made for this fight. This node also has, some kind of prowess mechanic, which, again, just makes Iron Doom even more powerful. He converts prowess into energy vulnerability. So Iron Doom just totally nuked this fight. And then I think we used Kitty for this fight. One thing to note for this node now has Scared Stiff. So if you haven't hit the defender within 6 seconds, like the brute force timer, instead of getting brute force damage, you get rooted. Now it doesn't explicitly say this, but it does say on the node description that a rooted defender cannot move, but they can still dex, block, and throw attacks, okay? But it says that they can't move. So one critical distinction that we didn't realize until this war, we found out, is with Kitty Pryde, she cannot phase if she's rooted, because in order to trigger her phase mechanic, she has to literally dash in, and that is obviously moving, and she can't move, so she can't dash, even if it looks like she's making an immobile dash move animation. She can't move, so she can't phase while rooted. So just keep that in mind. She can't phase while rooted. Make sure that you're hitting the defender at least once every 6 seconds, or if you don't think that you can do that, or you think that you're going to have to bait out specials, just don't send Kitty. All right. So this fight here, who did we use? I think it might have been like Omega Sentinel, honestly. So this has Power Snack, and then when the defender gains prowess, once they have 3 or more, their special attacks are passively unblockable. And Omega Sentinel is immune to Power Snack. She's not going to be able to prevent prowess buildup for Storm, but she's got auto block mechanic just in case, and then you can also just dex her specials, which I think are fairly easy to dex. And then our Iron Doom guy took these 2 fights here, which are just prowess fights, and I mean these are completely just hilarious fights with Iron Doom. And let's see, this path here, I think we had Kitty take this. I think we used a Mole Man here actually, and then a Torch with Flame on here. This does have Mighty Charge, so if you use Torch and you don't have Flame on, then when he dashes in, he'll purify your Incinerates. And then up here, I think we just used Dr. Doom, just pretty standard Dr. Doom fight there. I'm kind of going out of order. I know that I'm about to move up to the left island, but let's just take care of the middle island first. And then over here, so Mole Man is a perfect counter here, but Mole Man is not a very good option for this Claire because she starts in bleed immune phase, and Mole Man deals bleeds. And when she is immune to an effect, or either champ is immune to an effect, she gains power. and Mole Man is going to pick up Monster Mass on this node when she throws special attacks, and if you block an attack and you don't land a clean parry, then you're going to trigger an unstoppable buff, and she will purify, or she'll nullify that. That'll feed Mystic Dispersion, so whatever. It's just a tricky fight with Mole Man. That's why she's placed here, to make somebody bring 2 different counters. I can't remember who we used for this fight, but you can use like a Miles Morales would be really, really good here. She would basically be unblockable the entire fight after she threw a special attack, and you're good to go. You'll just be in camo mode the entire time. You can also just use Torch. You can also use a robot who is immune to bleed and all that stuff. You can also use a Doom, who is not immune to bleed, of course, but he is immune to armor break. So I don't know. You've got some options there. Over here, this is the, what is it? Buffet. It's Buffet over time and Vigorous Assault. So basically, anytime he has a regen effect, or I'm sorry, a regen buff, then he will be unblockable from Vigorous Assault. It's actually decent placement here. Quake is going to completely take this placement away. But you can also use a champ like Gallon, I think is who we used, who is immune to Buffet, he can't be nullified, and just completely nukes this fight in, I don't know, 20 seconds or something with his SP1. So that's a good option as well. You can also even use I think I actually took this fight, to be honest, with Omega Sentinel. Omega Sentinel, isn't like the best option here, but she's also immune to nullify, so she's perfect for Buffet. She has heal block mechanic, and yeah, it's just a standard Ultron fight. Okay, and then over here, I'm pretty sure I took this path, but I used Omega Sentinel here. Again, this is just the heal path. This is Buffet over time as well. I just used Human Torch and took Dex off so that I didn't have to trigger Buffet or worry about him degenning me. Very, very easy fight. Archangel is also a really good option here if you either take off Dex or just don't Dex, just land clean parries. This is Disorient and Strike Counter Block Penetration path. This node is going to disorient on parries. This node disorients on consecutive dashbacks. But with Jabari Panther, basically you can bypass her cleanse with guidance, and I think that we just sent Archangel with guidance, but Apocalypse with guidance is really good here. Omega with or without guidance is great. Here, I think that we sent a Torch, and the reason he's placed here is you want to parry him to cancel his power charge buff so that he stops gaining power, but on this node, if you parry, you'll get a Disorient passive on you, I believe. Honestly, you can just parry at the start. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just, you can use Dr. Doom here. Like, literally any Dragon Man counter here. Just be aware that your parries might fail if you have a Disorient effect on you. Over here, we've got an armor path. I think this has Chitinous Thorns, and he does gain an armor randomly. It's 60% chance to gain an armor every time he takes a hit, right? So you can use a champ like Corvus. I'm pretty sure we sent Corvus up this path. Just make sure that you're landing parries to armor break, and when you hit him, understand that you could trigger another armor. So just basically super safe, just parry, medium, back off, parry, medium, all the way up to your SP2, and then you can nuke him. Up here, you got a couple options. Quake is definitely an option. And then Nebula is also another great option just to completely shut off the node. I'm pretty sure we went with Nebula. Quake is a decent option though as well. All right, and actually we get to skip middle section here, and let's jump all the way over to the right island. Okay, so this placement, this is pretty common and it's pretty scary. So it's Conflictor, 75% Conflictor, which is it's the most power gained from a Conflictor in the game. And then you've also got Hazard Shift, Shock, and Bleed. The two best options for this fight, or the two safest options for this fight, are just going to be Thing with Guidance or Nebula. Nebula will trigger Conflictor if you land parries, but you can just repeatedly land parries and play it like a normal fight. With Nebula, you'll trigger Conflictor, but you'll also just constantly shock him. And it's pretty easy to manage. And Void is the type of defender that I don't mind him going to an SP2. I took this node with a Magneto earlier in the season, and I really struggled. I was able to pull out a solo, but Magneto, man, you just kind of want to keep baiting his SP1s, and with the 75% conflictor, that's an issue. But with Void, you don't have to worry about that. You can push him to 2.5 bars of power if you want, and so those two options are really, really good. And then, the reason you don't necessarily, you might want to go with Thing over, I think we sent a Thing here this time, is because Thing, I think, is the best option for this fight. So this is also Shock Bleed. Obviously, you can't use Nebula here. So Thing is going to be a good option. And then over here, you can definitely use Nebula, but, Thing is a pretty strong option for Wong. Basically, the only deal with Wong is you would like to try to prevent him from throwing heavy attacks because he'll gain a passive Unstoppable, and he'll also gain power. And, with Thing, you can just land clean parries here and just play him like a normal Thing fight. All right, here, Tiger's great option here. This is just a buff path, and this has Rich Get Richer all the way up through node 47 here. So the more buffs on either the attacker or the defender, they're going to gain power passively over time. Tiger, great option here. You can use Tiger here. You can also use Archangel, Torch, whoever you want. Here we definitely used Tigra. I think this person actually brought Tigra, Kitty, and White Magneto. Just used Kitty for this fight and Tigra for both of these fights. And then this path is Spite, and then this one has Kinetic Transference and Aspect of Evolution. So, again, Misty is a champ that can evade you and purify your debuffs unless you're using a mutant attacker. We just sent an Archangel here, got this fight down in about 30 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. And then here is pretty good placement, but you can definitely use a champ like Omega Sentinel, even though she gets a lot of armor buffs. Same thing with Nimrod, even though he gets armor buffs and he will trigger Spite throughout the fight. Just throw on an invulnerability boost, get to your SP2. You should be able to nuke this fight down pretty fast. Ghost is a really strong option here with the full team if she's not banned as well. You can even use like a Quake you can either remove Dex completely and just play it parry style. Eat the SB1 if you need to, doesn't really matter. Or, I don't know. Those are just some options. Okay, and then let's move on to Mini Island to wrap this scouting phase up. Oh, man, it always makes me tired when I go through this. All right, so Doom Boss. Doom Boss. Super, super annoying. But this guy is probably going to be a boss every war from here on out, especially once we reach Tier 1. He's just going to be the boss every time. We just have to, be prepared for that. So what we've been doing is we have been sending a Human Torch with all the trappings. So Human Torch with the Guardian on the team to help with block proficiency, make sure that that person has maximum greater vitality to give him 8% additional health, maximum physical resistance, maximum block proficiency, just to help with all that stuff. Definitely guidance. And then it's just about, execution. Now, we've got two very, very strong players in this battle group, and we got a lot of strong players, but two top 100 players in the world in this battle group, and Bryn and Happy McMuffins. So they've kind of been splitting the torch duty, and they've each soloed a Doom boss with their rank 3 torch this season, and played the fights literally perfectly. And I think both of them came out with between 50 and 60% health. So just losing 40% of health to block damage. And we are going to make a change later in the season. You guys can kind of see how that goes. We're going to switch it from Human Torch to another option. I will talk about that in the next war video. But anyway, super annoying. But yeah, so it's basically going to be Torch, and then there are two other options that I think I want to save for my next video. That I will discuss those options in the next video, and I think that they're both safer and better than Human Torch here. But Human Torch and those two options, I think, are literally the only 3 options for this boss. So anyway, all right, here. CGR is, I think, the safest and easiest option for Hyperion with this global node. But he is banned this war, so we sent a Human Torch with Flame on here, just use an invulnerability boost. Don't worry about his power. Block his SP1 and his SP2 to build Smolders. And if he's not throwing those, let him go to his SP3. Doesn't really matter. We also used Human Torch here. Red Hulk can definitely take this fight. Kitty can take this fight. Human Torch is just kind of just a faster, easier option in my opinion. Over here, we've been sending Tigra, but Quake wasn't banned this war. Quake is definitely a good option. You can also use Rintra. Rintra is a really good option. Over here, we definitely sent Tigra. Again, you can use Rintra. That would just be a little bit slower of a fight, but he does reduce armor break potency, so you don't really have to worry about that. He's a fucking beefy tank, so that's good. You can also use like Sim Supreme, who's a sick and tired attacker. CGR would definitely work if he wasn't banned. So you've got some options there. Up here, we just had a... I think we actually had Kitty take this fight because with the Tiger synergy, she just goes unblockable and, you know, it's just easy fight. But you can also send Corvus, obviously. Hercules, just hit into her block. Any Cosmic Champ, really, if you just want to hit into her block, get her shield down, you can nuke her. Cosmic Champs are going to be safe because of Brute Force being less affected due to class advantage with Cosmic Champs. And then over here, I think we sent, God, who did we send? I honestly can't remember, man, but I think it was actually a Corvus with Guidance. CGR definitely works, but you've got Conflictor here, so Conflictor will eat up the armor break debuff. You can also, if you have like a Lizer in your battle group, you can also send Omega Red, which would be super safe. You can even do like Archangel with Guidance and, you know, just let him get a little bit of power from the first few bleed applications, and then once you get to Neuros, you'll kind of shut him down. Then here we've been using Scorpion for this fight all season. So anyway, all right, that's it. Let's get to the fights. Let's actually get to the fights. Let's skip ahead here. You can see after I do my scouting, I'm just ready to be done. So okay, Omega Sentinel, because I've got her for a few fights, Human Torch, and then White Magneto. I've been using that team quite a bit. All right, we're going to move to Path 1 over here. Be using Omega Sentinel for both of these fights. And, yeah. All right, so boosting up here. I think I go mid-boost. Yeah, we're going to go 6-hour 20%ers here. Got some about to expire. All right, it's time to skip ahead. Still skip ahead. Skip ahead, please, sir. Please. Reinvigorated Fury and Personal Space Regen. Doesn't really matter because I'm just going to heal block him. And let's see if I actually remember to do the heal block pre-fight, because I keep forgetting to do that in all of these fights with Omega Sentinel. It's not really a huge deal. Just got to land a parry heavy to switch over to the heal block, and then you can apply the heal block with medium. But yeah, I don't know. I just keep forgetting to do it. I really like this champ. I really love this champ, honestly. I'm just really not liking using her in war, you know, and I don't really know why, but yeah. All right, here we go. Fight number 1, 2 hours into the video. Parry, medium, he's heal blocked, and now we can either heavy to pause and cycle to the next debuff, which is tracking. And the reason you would do that is just once you get to your SP2, you'll apply more incinerates the more debuffs you have. But from this point on, we're just going to go full light ending combos to pause the debuffs. And we are going to have to wait this out because while he has this, he is stun immune, and if I hit him twice in a row, he'll parry my second hit. So we lose the heal block debuff. Not really a big deal. We are going to throw the SP2. I don't know why I threw the SP2 here. I guess it doesn't really matter. He's not conduit, so it's not a big deal. All right, we counter heavy, and now we can apply the heal block with a medium. Boom, he's heal blocked. And at this point, we just want to keep these incinerates up, let them do all the work for us. So we're going to do, light enders if he doesn't throw a special, and if he does throw a special, then we'll just do mediums, reapply the debuffs, get to the SP2s, blah, blah, blah. All right. Pretty straightforward. I think that I make Omega Sentinel fights look a lot more complicated than they are because I just am not good with her. But yeah, all right. Moving along. And the only question here is, did I use guidance? I can't remember. Definitely not necessary, and probably would benefit to just save guidance for future fights, because it's just kind of wasteful on this node. And it looks like I'm not going to use it, which I'm actually glad. But I have been ripping through these invulnerability boosts. That's going to play a factor here in a couple war videos. But all right. So here we're going to apply a debuff with medium. It is going to get eaten by masochism. Not a big deal. Oh, it looks like we actually triggered it with our first parry, so that's great. All right, we're going to switch over. Then we're going to trigger it with another parry. Now we can apply it. And at this point, we're just going to do medium, light to keep those debuffs refreshed. That's all we're doing in this fight. Ending with a light attack. There we go. Very nice. Ending with a light attack does not inflict a debuff. I do want to make sure that I get off a parry to trigger masochism over time before I throw my SP2, because it will inflict those incinerate debuffs. And those debuffs are going to do a lot of work for me. So we're just going to trigger masochism over time with parry. And then we are going to inflict a new heal block debuff. And that's basically it for the entire fight. We're just going to inflict another debuff. He heals, whatever. Inflict another debuff. Go into our SP2. These fights honestly just look so boring on playback. Man, she is really cool though. She's super valuable attacker as well for a planner. She just covers a lot of ground. She's really unique. Being buffet immune is really, or nullify immune is really a strong utility for war. Not a lot of champs have it. Anyway, all right. God, will this fight end? I'm gonna end up soloing this fight, not losing a whole lot of health. So I'm like tempted just to skip ahead, but I'll let you guys see it. I think we're just waiting to trigger a parry. There we go. Get a reparry. Throw the SP2. Get some incinerates. Pretty much good to go at this point. God, what a loser, dude. What a freaking loser. Alright, and we're going to end it with the SP1. JK. My God, bro. Boom. Done. You're fucking done. Alright, so we're going to slap guidance on this Domino for our Corvus here, just to make sure that Corvus has the easiest possible fight, because Domino is just so naughty. Alright, next fight here. I am taking this Ultron. Alright, we're going to skip ahead. There you go. Energy refills. God, I love those things. Skipping ahead. Skipping ahead. Skipping ahead. Alright, so we don't have to worry about buffet on this node at all. We do have to be mindful of sloped armor, because that can fail our debuff application. But yeah, I mean, we do want to get him heal blocked. And he will trigger regions at 50% and 25%. There's going to be like a 1 second period between me triggering that and it actually being proccing on him. And if I parry him within that 1 second window, it will cancel out the those buffs from happening, that would be ideal, because when those buffs happen, he will be unblockable. So here you guys see he's processing. Now he's got the buff, and for the entirety of this buff, he's going to be passively unblockable. So I just can't land parries. I'm just going to wait this out. We push him under 25%, so he re-triggers a brand new regen, and again, passively unblockable. Now he's got an armor, so he can glance my attacks. He's got a 30% chance. All right, now we don't have to worry about anything. We apply the heal block, and it's just we're just going to finish this last little bit off. So very, very simple fight for really anybody who's nullify immune, but Omega Sentinel does a good job. Second fight in a row that I try to end on an SP1. It just doesn't do any damage, which is awesome. Not a big deal, though. All right, let's purchase more of those energy refills, baby. All righty, here we go. Heal block debuff, again, this is a conduit defender. It doesn't really matter. As long as we keep him heal blocked, we can use our SP2 to inflict those incinerates. Not going to do anything. Yeah, we can knock him down. There goes the conduit debuff. Doesn't matter because he's heal blocked. I'm just stacking up the debuffs so that when I throw my SP2, it'll do as much damage as we can ask for. All right, now we're doing light enders. And ideally, we would let our damage over time tick him down enough that we can kill him before this count gets to 15. Because if it gets to 15, when he dies, then he will gain immortality. If we're able to kill him before it gets to 15, he won't gain immortality, and he'll just die. So that's the goal. Doing light enders. We're not dealing a ton of damage, hit damage, which is perfect. And our debuffs are going to end up finishing him off before he can get immortality, which is great. Okay, so for this next fight, we have a Mojo on Buffet over time, and we're going to be using Human Torch, and we're just taking off Dexterity just to remove all of the risk in this fight. And that is it. We're not using Flame On here. I am saving Flame On, I think, so that I can apply it for somebody else taking a different fight, or maybe just to have it as backup. I really can't remember. It's been a couple wars, but yeah, you don't need Flame On for Mojo if you're taking Dex off. You just don't need it. And that kind of goes for any Mystic. I would say the only Mystics I would probably recommend having Flame On for, obviously like Wiccan would be a good idea, although that's not even necessary. The big ones are like Sasquatch and Rintra because they're so beefy, and those fights can take a while. You just want to kind of get them down as quickly as possible. Against Maw, against Mojo, it's just wasteful. Definitely against Dr. Doom, especially with this global. Mordo with this global, you have to use it. Otherwise, you can't use Human Torch at all. But yeah, if it's not a conduit defender, it's basically Sasquatch, Rintra, and the rest, it's kind of wasteful, honestly, to use it. But yeah, all right, there he tries to juke me with that weird SP1 deal, and I'm able to block it, saw it coming. And that's it, guys. What a war video. Yay! All right, we ended up winning this war. So we are now 2 wins away from Tier 1 unless we lose. Then that just adds another win that we would have to get. But yeah, that's the war. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to. Leave a comment in the comment section if you want to. Just blah, 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 all the YouTube shit that we're supposed to say. I'll see you in the next video.